Welcome to the Mayor's Monthly with Mayor Eddie Lowe and Mayor Bubba Copeland of Phoenix City and Smith Station. It's excellent to have you visit with us. Today we have a very special guest, Pastor Ralph Wooten of First United Methodist. He's a great pastor and a great friend, and he'll be interviewing us on maybe his expertise as far as how we deal with certain issues when it comes to religion issues or spiritual issues, and he'll be asking us certain questions that are straight to the point. But we're so glad you joined us this month on the Mayor's Monthly.
And also, I just want to reiterate what Mayor Copeland has stated. Again, this really validates how unified that this area is, and we're so grateful to have Pastor Wooten here to really bring it in to show how connected that we are as a communities. And we are grateful that you are here, and we appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to the questions you have for Bubba and I.
Well, great. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be between two faces made for radio. It's,
don't know about that.
A rose. Oh, that's it. Yeah. No, it's great. I appreciate the opportunity to come, and I've been with you all in various settings, so it's kind of neat to be in this. So I get to ask the first question. I'm part of Communities of Transformation here in Phoenix City, and we gather around now on Monday evenings. And one of the first things we do when we gather around as a group is we ask people to give some good news. So, Mayor Lowe, tell me some good news about Phoenix City.
The good news about Phoenix City is that we all here in Phoenix City has the opportunity to see another day only by grace and mercy. And what I always tell people when we have those opportunities, and the good thing is that we have an opportunity to be lifters and not leaners. So it's great to have that opportunity. So that's the good news that we try to bring each and every day, that we can make a difference for not only ourselves but for other people.
So, Mayor Copeland, tell us some good news about Smith Station.
You know, Smith Station is a bustling, growing community. We're a suburb of Phoenix City and a suburb of Opelika and Auburn, and we're caught in the middle. And just a small city. We have great people that love each other, and a great community environment. School has let back in, and it's bustling. We go from probably about 3,000 a day come through the city to about 15,000 a day overnight. And so everybody's back to school, and right now our first really good thing is school's back in. Kids are safe, and everything is working out. So the good news in Smith Station is all is well.
Yeah.
Good, good. Well, you both are men of profound faith. I've been around you. I know your life and your testimony. So part of what we're going to talk about today is, with that in mind, what's on your mind, Mayor Lowe, when it comes to faith and leadership in your community? What's on your mind?
What's always on my mind, particularly when you get in this gig, as I call it, politically, is that you always have to be willing to be the sacrificial lamb for the whole. And I stress that, and I talk about that with the people that works for the city department head, the city manager, but also when we have an ordinance that we always talk about. You have to do things for the right reason, and when you're in this position and you're willing to be sacrificial, you're always getting arrows coming at you. And so what I challenge our people to do is that you continue to spread your wings even wider so they can continue to have a better opportunity to hit you, because it gives you an opportunity to stay sweet. And I always tell people we're going to stay in Jericho where we're going to stay sweet, because I don't have to answer the way you treat me, but I have to answer the way I treat you. And so we try to use that, and my spiritual value is to always show people that you really care about them. Now, sometimes that's hard, but at the end of the day, it's something that we have to be mindful of because of the testimonies that you want to be able to always leave. So I always try to tell people that, you know, you have to be willing to be sacrificial, because when you do have a sacrificial spirit, and you look at Noah gave up everything to get ahead. not only for himself, because being sacrificial means that you are thinking more about others than you do yourself. And any leaders have to have that mindset, because it's not about you, but it's about the people that you're responsible for. And as Mayor Copeland and myself are the leaders of our respective communities and cities, we have to have that mindset, and that's what I try to do each and every day. And you have to refurbish yourself sometimes.
So what's the real challenge in doing that, refurbishing yourself?
Is keeping the foundation of what the Word says, and trying to stay sweet and stand in Jericho, and not just talking it, but actually walking it, because people see more when you're not talking than through your action. But that's the challenge each and every day, because I can tell you he's doing it for the right reason, I'm doing it for the right reason. But everybody doesn't see it that way, but you have to always maintain that sweetness and give of yourself sacrificially for the sake of the team. And that's what I truly believe.
Yeah. So Mayor Copeland, what's on your mind when it comes to faith and leadership? I know you've had a few challenges early on in your mayoral rise.
A few of them.
Yeah. You don't get in the, and I want to reiterate this point. You don't run for mayor because it pays well,
Right.
or that you will get a peace of mind,
Right.
or that you will be somebody. If you want to be the mayor of a city, you better be prepared to be a servant,
Right.
a servant leader. You will be leading by giving everything that you have away, everything that you hold dear. You'll be leading by doing that, whether it be taking your family with you to functions, whether it be going somewhere after you've worked a 50-hour week and doing what you need to do. But it's servant leadership, and that's when I think about my faith. The only thing I know is that Jesus Christ gave himself away. And by no means am I comparing myself to Jesus, but he tells us in the Bible that you have to give yourself away in order to get something. You have to prime the pump. And as the mayor of a small city, my goal is to give the people everything that I am to try to make it the best place possible. And just by loving people and loving people where they're at, who they are, in spite of themselves and in spite of me. Love them. That's just my faith and what it means to be mayor. But don't do this gig thinking it's going to be.
Won't work. And the amazing thing too, Pastor, is, and I always share this, the quickest way for any community, or even individually, the quickest way to get ahead collectively or individually is to build the people up around you. Is to put them first.
Absolutely.
Because when you're in this gig, as we say, you are truly a servant, and you got to be willing to spread those wings even wider, so they can shoot you at you or punch you or whatever, but you still have to maintain that servant attitude.
And you have to be able to take, there's a prayer that I read years ago that talked about having the skin of a rhino, and you really have to have the backbone and skin of a rhino, because let me tell you something. In your mind, you're plugging hard as you can away to try to get something and make the city better
For the right reason,
And then
too.
you log on to
Yeah.
Facebook and look, and you're the worst person God ever created.
Yeah.
There's 5 cats that are running around in my yard, and the mayor won't do anything about it. And I'm like, I'm sitting here trying to broker $1 million deal, and I got to worry about cats, and that's important to that lady.
Exactly.
So last night I go out and I look at the cats. What we can do to help her with the cats, and so it's like he says, it's just really giving yourself away.
That's kind of like Jack Tibbs and the Taco Bell and Eufaula that we don't have, that everybody asks about. I understand.
Yeah.
If it's not cats, it's the Taco Bell or the
It's
pothole.
important to the person.
Right, it's
and you have to
important to the
communicate
person.
with them.
And what really interesting about this is you being a pastor know exactly
He's in the same
what we're
situation.
saying. You can't do right.
It's in the same situation.
Can't get right, can't do right. Yeah. So what's your challenge in maintaining that sort of servant spirit? What's your challenge? What's the real challenge there? How do you
Humility.
keep that?
Humility.
Okay.
Humility and humor. To be able to laugh at yourself.
Right.
And I don't know about him, but I'll be safe to. to throw this blanket over he and I together, alone time. You have to be humble,
for
and
yourself,
you have to find at least 30 minutes to an hour a day where you can recharge and reflect and get away from the monotony of being in the limelight or being in the spotlight all the time.
Or the line of fire.
Yeah, you really do, because it wears you down.
Right.
It wears you down to the point where,
And the reason why it wears you down, because you honestly care.
yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, you sincerely and wholesomely care. If you didn't care, for lack of a better word, it'd be a piece of cake. But
Right.
we're not cut that way because of our foundation and our spiritual values, because we are truly servants. But if you didn't care, it wouldn't matter to you. But we honestly care for the right reason.
I'm an interim pastor at First Baptist Church, and a lot of people ask me, say, well, why do you be the mayor that's a pastor? And I say, no, I said, I'm a pastor that's a mayor, because Lord put me in a position as mayor to be able to share my faith with people. And I can't do it openly because of separation of church and state, but I truly believe by the way you live and the way you carry yourself, people know. People know.
They know.
So I minister how I act by loving
Right.
people.
Right. So both of you have expressed a strength in that you care about your community, you care about people, you want to be sacrificial in the way that you lead. With every strength, there's also a weakness attached with that strength.
Amen.
What's the danger from caring?
Well,
I know that may sound strange
yeah,
to some of our viewers, but there's a danger in.
You can have a passion for something so strongly that it can become a weakness to some point, because you're so tunnel vision and so focused on trying to get accomplished whatever that passion is you have, but it can become a weakness. And the biggest problem I have is you care so much about people, and we as leaders supposed to try to lift people up to get to an area that they can also learn to be servant leaders by your action and walking. But the biggest problem I have with that is sometimes I don't know exactly when to wean away from doing that. That not only can hinder you, but it can also hinder that person. And so that's the biggest challenge I have, is sometimes knowing when to because I'm such a passionate person about everything I try to do, and I think that's the only way it can be successful in something. But my weakness is knowing sometime when to wean away, particularly with a group of people or with individually, because again, as I stated, it not only can hurt you, but it can also hurt them from being all they can be as well as yourself. If
Well,
that makes sense to you.
the Bible speaks of there's wisdom in much counsel, but sometimes do you ever get to the point where you don't need any more counsel? You just need.
No, you don't. No, you never get to that point, and I can tell you. In fact, my pastor is working on me, and I really have this weakness, is that you like to give and lift up people so much that when they want to do something for you, you don't want to accept that. Well, he's working and teaching me that you don't need to stop their blessing.
Right.
And so that's the area that
I had to learn that early on.
but my pastor is working with me on that, because you want to do and give of yourself, and when other people want to reciprocate that, then you don't want to accept it or do it. But I'm learning that I don't need to stop their blessings. If that makes sense.
You're preaching to me right now.
Right. Well, I mean, and we all need that practice in not only in giving but in receiving, because
So hard.
we've received so much through Christ and through the church. So, you ever have more counsel than you can?
Oh no.
You can sort through.
No, and you talked about the weakness. There's weakness. And grown men don't like to show weakness.
Right.
But there's a great number of weakness, and there's times I've leaned on you as a pastor. I was talking to my fiance about this last night. Some people can't get out of their own way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you try your best to help people, but you cannot. And I will challenge anybody. You cannot be successful by being selfish.
Oh, no.
You
Won't work.
cannot be successful in any form, whether it be business, whether it be church, whether it be as the mayor. And so many people in today's time are so looking out for numero uno and them say, how does it feel to me? How does it taste to me? How does it look to me? And when you realize that true freedom comes from it doesn't matter how it tastes to you and how it looks to you, how does it feel to the whole? And that means race, sexuality, that means age, that means intelligence, that means financially. When you realize, as I say every month, the rising tide floats all ships. When we say that, when we all
He's an
come
Auburn fan, so he didn't say tide.
when we all come up
Hope
together,
springs eternal, doesn't it?
yeah, we all come up together when
Right.
we encourage each other. And I believe if the world would just get away from being selfish and care about the person that's to your right and to your left, what a better place it would be. So by seeing people act selfish is my weakness. It hurts. It really hurts because you really want what's best. And that's why we're having this show. He and I understand that Phoenix City and Smith Station are not that different.
Right.
We're all connected.
Yeah.
Right.
We're all connected.
And the only thing we're different from is about 4 miles worth of road.
Right.
And we got to bring each other up for the betterment of every citizen in both areas.
Right.
And when people don't act that way, it's really weak to me because it's just like a foreign language. It's like Chinese arithmetic or algebra. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I struggled with algebra myself.
Exactly.
We've talked about some of the challenges, and we've talked about some of the strengths that you all have. If we're coming to the end of your mayoral term, what does that look like? What do you want at the end of your elected time of leadership in Phoenix City? What does that look like? What do you want at the end of your term?
What I'm praying and hoping is that we are an inclusive community.
Now, explain what you mean by inclusive.
Well, every person, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of socioeconomics, just regardless of what area, that we are an inclusive community, city that really cares about people in this community and each other. And I know that, people think I am a Pollyanna guy, kind of guy, utopia kind of guy. And I just believe that you can really teach people how to love and how to be inclusive and how to accept people as they are, because people who gets people to do things that they shouldn't do, whether they're gangs or rock stars or anything, the first thing they do is accept the person as they are. They don't try to change them. They don't talk to them or talk down to them and saying you're wrong here, you need to do. First thing they do is accept them as they are. Then the second thing is they spend time with them, but the time that they're spending with them, that person, you are living consistent in how you are carrying yourself and how you're showing appreciation for them and how you're showing them that you accept them as they are. And once you do that, that person begins to see that, hey, he or she is real. So once you detect that, and you have to detect that, and sometimes you may not hit it just right, but you have to detect that before you can start talking to them to change them for what's good and wholesome and pure. And so what I see is, I don't want anything other than to people that we can lift each other up, that we can be inclusive, and that when one is in trouble, the other one is in trouble. And if one looks good from the community, the other one looks good. And I just believe that, and that's what I pray and hope for, and that's how I try to live, because we truly have to be lifters instead of leaners. And what I hope and pray for, that when I'm long gone, that somewhere it can be shown that this community really love each other. Now, are we going to have it always 100%? No, I'm not naive, but I do believe this, the 80-20 rules, if we can get there, I think that would make not only us as individuals be rewarded, but we will all be eternally rewarded. And that's what I want for Phoenix City.
So if we're going to say yes to being an inclusive, loving community, what do we have to say no to?
We have to be as bold. You know, the scriptures say the righteous is as bold as a lion. What we have to say no to is that we can't discriminate or segue a certain area or certain people. We have to really lift each other up, because where we are now may not be where we will be. But we would only know that only when we start reaching in and diving in to help lift, you know, because we all win.
Right.
If you're on a football team and some of the most important people are the people who doesn't get the attention, well, you always understand that if I win, you win. And it's up to me to make you look good. And that's what I want this community to be and realize. And we can't, I'm a utopia, Pollyanna kind of guy, but I just believe that, and I believe you can teach people that.
So we're at the end of your mayoral terms. You've lost your hair.
More hair, huh?
You're old. You're wearing glasses. What does it look like at the end of your tenure as Smith Station's mayor?
Well, first things first is I want to make sure it's a better place when I leave it than when I found it.
Okay.
Second of all is, this is by no means what I'm about to say a cut to anybody, but our city has not had a seat at the table. Our city is just a small outskirt of Phoenix City and Opelika and Auburn. We're in the middle. When I leave, I want us to be a force to be reckoned with in the community, as we have a seat in the table. And we are a legitimate city, and we're growing business-wise, housing-wise, and with those things. We're 16 years old. They're over 100 years old.
Right.
So there's a big difference there.
Right.
So I'm the second mayor. So when I leave, I want to leave on a growth pattern to where we're growing to be what we need to be. We're dealing with issues like who's going to cut the grass. And he makes a phone call to the city manager and the grass gets cut. See, we're a growing city.
Right.
And so that's, when I leave, I want it to be, I don't want to say legitimate, because it is legitimate. I want to say growing in the right direction and better off than when I found it.
Which means inclusive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So at the end of the day, the common denominator for us
Right.
is the inclusion of every citizen of those communities.
Absolutely. You know,
That's the only way to work.
You're only as good. You're only
Exactly.
as good as the weakest link, and every single person in Smith Station in Phoenix City has reason, has need to be loved, and that's what it's all about. And I take every single phone call, phone call, and sometimes that gets tough. And so I totally agree with him. Inclusion is a big deal. Everybody.
So
everybody
what is Smith's going to have to say no to in order to be that inclusive, loving, legitimate, at the table player in the region?
Well, that's
city?
a huge question.
Well,
what are we going to have to
that's why we're here.
What are we going to have to say no to?
Yeah.
First thing is, every single one of us needs to say no to hate, and no to people not being tolerable. Just because our skin color is different, or our sexuality is different, or our socioeconomic preference is different, wouldn't that mean we're different? If you have a heart attack, you go to the same hospital, you get the same treatment. If you cut your finger, you get the same stitches. They don't have black people or gay people stitches.
Right.
Everybody
Have
has
stitches.
Right,
stitches.
stitches. Yeah.
The only thing that's really different for us, in what does Smith Station have to do, and this is the pastor coming out in me, love.
That's
Love.
That's
There is
it.
no other. There's nothing new. There's no money. There's nothing. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If you have if you are sounding, you sound like a sounding gong. If you have the ability to do anything in this world, and you don't have love, you're nothing. And our city, and I'm sure Phoenix City as well, we gotta love everybody where they're at, like you said, not where you want them to be.
Right.
And that's where I hope that our cities are at the end of our terms. And whether the citizens know it or not, that's why we're having this.
Yeah.
Right.
Is to show we love each other, and we're trying our best to get everybody to say, we're not really that different.
So the end of all of this for me is, what can I do or if, since I'm here sort of representing the church, what can the church do to help you usher in that vision that you have for Phoenix City, for Smith Station, for the area in general? What can we do as the church to usher that in?
Is to keep talking about how important it is that we lift others up, and we love, which is love, and that we are all connected the same way, because we all wants to ride in this tide of waves. And the main thing is that is just to continue to talk about love. And a lot of times we have to have the boldness, as the scripture says, to tell people when it's just wrong. You just have to say that, but you have to be able to back it with the scripture. And our spiritual value, as you know, is very important to us. And so that's the only thing that's going to be able to help us, because you can't have a good city or communities without God. And you got to have love. And I know, this separation of state and government, well, I'm not ashamed to say I believe in order for us to have a good community and a good city is that we got to have that foundation of love.
And
What can we do to help you all?
To answer that question is what aggravates me so much is I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna pray for you, and they forgot about you when you walk out the door.
Right.
Some of them you don't want praying for you.
When the Lord brings you to mind, and sometimes He just doesn't bring you up.
Earnestly and honestly, every church has a list. And on that list, they have names of the shut-ins and the sick and the infirmed. I would really like for the churches in our communities to add the city of Phoenix City and the city of Smith Station to their prayer list, and genuinely and earnestly pray for both of those genuinely. And then to culminate everything that we've talked about.
That's right.
25 years ago, a man by the name of Gene Langner, Dr.
That's right.
Eugene Langner, and a man by the name of Dr. Raymond Cochran had a vision to have something called a unity service. And he and I have attended this unity service every time that the doors have been open. It happens twice a year, and one time at Franchise, one time at First Baptist. And we have invited the news media, we've invited a lot of people, and people just don't seem to show up because it's not negative. Now, if he and I got in a fist fight in the front of Phoenix Cable,
It'll be
on Fox News tonight or CNN. But because we go to church together and we wrap our arms around each other,
And you love
we
each
got our
other.
knees and we pray with each other,
Yeah.
it's not that popular. So on September 9th, we have our unity service at Franchise Baptist Church down on Dillingham Street in Phoenix City. And we would love to have the community and the news media to show up and cover that service to show unity. When you have an African American choir and a Caucasian choir together, that's when you know what heaven's going to be like.
Right, absolutely.
So I challenge the community to come to that. And so what can the church do for us? Pray.
And Pastor Woon, let me say this. These communities, and people don't realize, these communities are going to be just fine and okay. We may not see it like we want to, but it's going to be okay. And let me tell you the reason why I say this, and Pastor Copeland, Mayor Copeland, and Pastor,
Bubba.
and I'm not, I almost feel embarrassed to say this, but for almost 2 years, there's a group, we started with 4 people, 2 from Central Baptist Church on the hill, as we say, we meet on the hill, and 2 from Greater Mount Zion, which we meet in the valley. Every Wednesday, we'll rotate those churches. Started off with 4 people, and now it has, sometimes you have over 20 that are praying for these communities. So we're going to be just fine. Now, whether we see it in our lifetime, and that's not up to us, but I do know this and believe this, that the seeds are being planted for these communities, that it's going to be awesome communities where people can really sincerely love each other and be lifters instead of leaders. And I just truly believe that.
Well,
because of
thank
that.
you. Thank you both for allowing me to come and ask some questions.
Thank you.
And on behalf of our communities, thank you for your leadership, and we will pray for you when the Lord
Please
brings
do.
you to mind. And
Please do.
we're grateful that you all are here, and pray that God's blessings will be upon you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you so much for tuning in to this month's Mayor Monthly show between Mr. Eddie Lowe and myself, Mayor Lowe, and we appreciate you being here. Pastor Ralph Wooten, what a great person. Football season's coming, and he's an Alabama fan. I'm an Auburn fan. I'm
And we still love each other.
I'm a Smith Station Panther. He's a Central Red Devil. So we're going to try to keep it civil for the next 3 months, but we'll be giving each other jabs, but totally out of love because it's so much fun, the competitive spirit. But we may be competitors on the football field, but we're friends in real life, and we're friends when it comes to cities. And we work together, and we truly believe that a divided house cannot stand. And we work together tirelessly to make sure our communities work well together. And I'll see you next month, man.
Thank you, Pastor Mayor Copeland, and thank you, Pastor Wooten. And thank you all for
Appreciate
joining
it.
us. And it really shows how unified and how loving that we are blessed to be in these communities. Thank you, and we'll see you next month.